past 25 years or so has been marked, I think, by an acute business and political savvy shared by not too many other people, a frank and an authentic style about how you make things happen and not just talk about them, a nose for the details and the need to get things done, not just okay, but right and correctly. The guts to take on the most difficult challenges and the most difficult opponents and foes, an unflinching willingness to look powerful people in the eye and tell them what needs to be done. Governor Bob Graham, who I must note will have to leave us a little bit early this afternoon, perhaps the most important political leader this state, this ecosystem has ever had. The 38th governor of the state of Florida, served then in the United States Senate for 18 years. This coalition was the governor's idea. He has been associated with this not just as a supporter, but this was his brainchild. The laws, the programs that we stand upon and use to try to restore the Everglades are the things that this man put in place when he was the governor of the state of Florida. Not just, I support what you do, but the intellect to craft the things that we are using, the political guts and leadership to implement them, to appoint people to do the work that needs to be done. It's his report cards and his benchmarks, his work, and then he would come and check in on how we did. He gave us tasks, he made sure that we performed them, and then he inspired us about how you work with people, how you combine as much talent as I've ever seen with as much humility as I've ever seen in one important person, and led by example as to how one conducts themselves in the world of government and politics. I could list the achievements. 10 years on the Senate Intelligence Committee, chaired that committee during 9/11 and the run-up to the war in Iraq. The environmental committees that he has served on, the endangered lands program, the land acquisition programs that we work on today were the things that Governor Graham started. We would not have those things without his vision. There is hardly a project from the top of the system down to the Keys that we work on that Governor and Senator Graham has not created or made happen for us or enabled or strongly championed for us. This coalition has always been more than just something he gave wavering support to. He has identified with it. He has been, in many ways, the father of Everglades restoration. I'm honored to share this podium with Governor Graham. Maggy Hurchalla, a tireless and effective advocate for Everglades restoration, served as the leader of the county commission, even when she wasn't chair in Martin County for 20 years. A very active member of the Governor's Commission for Sustainable South Florida, a member of the working team for the Indian River Lagoon feasibility study, a lifelong advocate, very specifically for wetlands preservation, the winner of many awards, national, state, and local environmental and conservation awards related to wetland planning, land planning, water planning. She has the ability to be earthy, real, candid, funny, brilliant, gutsy, all at the same time. Equally at home, rolling a kayak or sitting with political leaders and telling them what they need to do. A rare talent of the expertise and skill at the highest political levels, but then a command of the on-the-ground engineering and technical and scientific details, effective at making things happen at the highest political level, and then also being in the weeds as an expert witness in an administrative trial, testifying as an expert on land use planning, demonstrating a consistent command of subjects rarely possessed by people with the degrees and the job titles. Just one of the most pleasurable, effective, impressive people ever to work with us on these issues, Maggy Hurchalla.
think I'll hide it under the table.
Yeah, I think the word icon, I think, was dreamed up to describe Nat Reed. You know, among the most visible, high-profile champions and environmental advocates that we've ever had. Nathaniel can open doors and get phone calls returned like no other Everglades advocate, I think. And he's always very consciously used his very considerable worldwide gravitas on behalf of other advocates, young advocates, inexperienced advocates, people who weren't well known, always used his capabilities and gravitas to the benefit of others on behalf of this system, multiplying his talent and effectiveness in an incredible way. Served under Presidents Nixon and Ford as an Assistant Secretary of the Interior, served several governors, Democrat and Republican, at every conceivable position you could serve, basically, in state government. The chair of the Commission on Florida's Environmental Future, which recommended this incredible $3 billion investment to buy land that is the centerpiece of long-term permanent preservation in the state of Florida. The thing upon which Amendment 1 stands on is the work that Nathaniel has done in his career. Member of the South Florida Water Management District Governing Board for 14 years, surely a leader. And one of the particular things that has always stood out is the steadfast protection and advocacy of science. Nat has always protected the scientists when they came under attack, brutal attack, getting fired kinds of attack. He has always been there for scientists, and science, of course, is at the bottom of everything that we do. One of the founders of the Everglades Foundation, currently Vice Chair Emeritus, you know, his impact, his influence on institutions and on people has been felt throughout the system, throughout the state, throughout the world, really. I'm incredibly honored to introduce Nathaniel Reed. And bridging the gap from our experienced leaders to our next generation of leaders, we have with us this afternoon Adrian Person, and we have Elisha Williams. Adrian is from North Gardens Academy in Dade County, and Elisha Williams is from Miami-Dade College. And these two gentlemen are going to get us started off by posing questions to our esteemed panelists. Gentlemen.
Hi, my name is Elisha Williams. I'm a part of Mahawk and Q's nonprofit program based out of Miami, Florida. I attend Miami-Dade College. My question is, well, throughout the NPCA's youth training advocacy program, as we learn to be advocates, student advocates, I would like to know what do you recommend to what would you recommend to people, students about my age for the future and for the protection of Everglades?
Folks, I'll let you handle those in whatever order you'd like. Governor?
Well, before answering that question, I want to thank Richard for the very generous introduction he gave to all of us, and we have taken a poll and have decided that the smartest thing we could do right now is to die.
A 5-year-long project on whether ASR will work for 20 years doesn't tell you anything. A single project and a single piece of geology around Lake Okeechobee that tells you it works there won't tell you anything about 200 ASR wells around Lake Okeechobee. So we spent 8 years depending on ASR, and it won't work. And that's why we need to buy land south of the lake, which is the single most important thing we have to take home from this conference. The second failure was accelerate. It concentrated on reservoirs. It concentrated on turn dirt. Politicians love to turn dirt. They love to have photo ops doing projects and things like that. And it didn't accelerate anything. It quietly went away, and we don't talk about it because we don't like to talk about our failures. It included the idea of a public-private partnership. My husband has a wonderful philosophy on when you privatize in government. He says if you can find it in the yellow pages, it's okay to privatize. Otherwise, you are the captive of the person you have contracted with. Because there's nothing you can do about it when they do it wrong. You're dead. Yeah. What do you do if you decide you have an entire private state prison system and you find that it's not working and you're going to break the contract? Yeah. You don't have a state prison system anymore, and you don't have somebody else who has one that you can move into. So,
Step the administration could take to show Florida, key state for Gore's run, how committed the administration was. So the two of us dutifully appeared through the Secret Service offices, you know, you practically searched, and even in those days. And we entered the room, and the vice president came in, and we sat in two comfortable chairs, and he almost put his feet up on the desk. He was so at ease with us, and he said, come on, he had so small amount of staff, give me some ideas of something that would be really remarkable to add, that would be, you know, make the newspapers and cover the evening news on TV. And Mary and I looked at him and we said, well, what about a very large piece of land? There's something called Talisman, where the owner has gone broke trying to grow sugarcane on land that has subsided so significantly that the crop is not large enough to make money. What do you think it would cost? We pulled some number out of the hat. He told his staff, go to OMB and quickly get an appraisal on that property. It sounds just what I want to do. And so we came to the old ball field in Everglades City, and the announcement was made. There was a near disaster with the Miccosukee. The then superintendent had made the terrible mistake of putting your senior members of the tribe high up on the stands. And when I saw this, I damn near fainted. I wrote a note immediately to one of the Secret Service officers to deliver it to the vice president, who immediately turned around and said, I want all the representatives of the Miccosukee to be standing behind me. And so all of the chiefs came down, and it was a great sight. And he announced the purchase of Talisman. And Talisman is going to be one of the ace hold cards because it's going to be made into the largest of STAs, and it's going to service the reservoir, cleaning water, before it goes into the water conservation areas, which are going to be renamed the Everglades.
yes. Yes.